hello, and this is Not Your Average Joe. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys to make a pretty decent cappuccino with very inexpensive gear. The reason I'm making this is when I first started getting into coffee, I live in an area where the nearest good cup of cappuccino is like an hour away. There's just not one around here. I mean, we have a couple of Starbucks, but the Starbucks cappuccino is just an atrocity. So I decided I wanted to make cappuccino on my own at my house, right? So I started to do research on the internet, and I found that everyone is recommending $500 grinders and $1,000 espresso machines, and that is just so far out of my price range. In fact, my price range was about $100 for all the gear I needed. So if you're in a similar situation, you want to make pretty good coffee, but you don't have very much money, I'm going to show you kind of how you can do that. So what is a cappuccino? A cappuccino, very simply, is a cup of espresso and steamed frothed milk mixed in. Now, I know in the United States, a lot of times people call things cappuccinos that aren't actually cappuccinos. Usually they're a latte topped with a big fluffy chunk of nasty whipped egg white foam. It's disgusting. It's kind of how the Starbucks cappuccinos are. But cappuccinos were invented in Italy. That is a fact. So let's get to making one. What you're going to need today is a grinder, a milk frothing pitcher, an espresso machine with a milk frother, some fine unground whole bean coffee. You want to grind it right before it hits the hot water. And you're going to need a cappuccino cup. Okay? The cup needs to be, you want to leave it on top of the machine so that it gets warm. You want a 6 to 7 ounce cup. Don't go bigger, otherwise it's going to be hard to get the right ratio of espresso and milk. So you want a 6 to 7 ounce cup, and you want it to have sloped sides so that the cream and the espresso don't separate in the cup. Okay? Now, cleanliness is very, very important. I would take a crappy shot of espresso out of a clean machine over a good shot of espresso out of a dirty machine any day of the week. You got to have a clean machine. So let's do that now. I already cleaned the portafilter. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You're also going to need a damp rag and a dry rag. So I already cleaned the portafilter, so I'm just going to dry it out. Make sure if the portafilter is a little bit wet, then the coffee will kind of stick to it, and you won't get a perfect puck, and it might mess up the coffee. So you want the portafilter nice and dry. Then you want to run hot water through the espresso machine without the portafilter there. So this will sort of clean off the head there. So I ran some hot water. You can see it's got some nasty like grinds and stuff in it. That's why we run it through. Just dump that out. Set this aside. Then I'm going to clean it with my damp cloth. And then dry it off with my dry one. And we're ready to go. All right. Let's also talk about the water that you want to use. You can see here in my reservoir, I've got water filled up. Don't use soft water if you can help it. If all you have at your house is soft water, then there's nothing you can really do, except for maybe you could use spring water, bottled water. That tastes great. But you want to use hard water because you need those minerals. They help extract the oils and the different flavors from the coffee, so you do want hard water. Also, some notes about the machine. There are a lot of really cheap machines out there. The first one I tried was 30 or 40 bucks. It was terrible. It made the thinnest, runniest, yuckiest espresso because it was steam pressure driven. So they just heat the water up, which pressurizes it, and that's what pushes the water through the espresso. It's not enough pressure. You've got to get a machine that has a pump. This was the cheapest one I could find that had a pump. It was $60 when I bought it. It's a Mr. Coffee, not a great machine, but had the pump. And so this one actually will pull a decent shot of espresso if you do it right. Okay, so we talked about the cup being warm, the right shape and size. The beans. you don't want over-roasted beans. If they're over-roasted, and you can tell they're over-roasted because they will be black and oily looking all over them. What happens is there's little capsules, little pockets of oil inside, flavorful, wonderful oil inside the coffee bean. When you roast it too hot, too high, you over-roast it, those little capsules of oil explode. And the oil gets all over the outside of the bean. And then the oil will start to go rancid after a period of time. So you want to make sure you get beans that are nice and brown, not black, and that don't look too oily on the outside. You see, these ones have a nice little shine, but they're not black and they're not oily. That's a pretty good roast, I would say. Alright, now we're going to grind. I used this very inexpensive, it was like 10 bucks, maybe 20 or something. It's a blade grinder. If you've got the cash, if you've got a little extra in your budget, I strongly suggest getting a nice burr grinder. I purchased a burr mill here. It's a Mr. Coffee, it was 35 bucks. Not good enough. That's why I'm still using the blade one. This one does not grind the espresso fine enough or consistent enough. So this fine setting isn't fine enough, and it also is fairly inconsistent. I like this machine for drip coffee, can't use it for espresso. So I use my little blade grinder, and like I said, if you can get a burr grinder, get it. Get a nice one if you can afford it. So let's go ahead and grind the beans. Just gonna dump 2 scoops of beans in there. And we're gonna set it to fine. 4 cups, because that's the lowest setting, and here we go. Now, one issue with the blade grinder is that they actually generate a little too much heat, which is one reason you want to use the burr. Let's take a look. That's not quite fine enough, just almost. Let's grind it a little bit longer. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright. Now you want to dose your coffee into the portafilter. Now, if I had a nice burr grinder, you can actually place the portafilter right under it and it'll grind directly into it. That is ideal, but I don't have that equipment here, so we're just going to do the best we can. Scoop it in. Scoop some more in here. You want to sort of fill it to overflowing and then kind of spread it out, flatten it out with your finger here. Then we tamp. I'm going to kind of get ready here. Put the tamp in, and you want to apply vertical pressure, about 30 pounds of vertical pressure down onto your coffee. And then give it a little polish. Oh, I screwed it up. A little polish at the end there. You want to make sure you get rid of the excess grounds on the top of the portafilter so that it can make a nice seal with the machine. If there's coffee grounds on it, it might not make a perfect seal. One more press at about 30 pounds of pressure and a little polish. Now we have a pretty nice little puck. If my grinder were better, and someday I will have a better grinder, this puck would be more consistent and just a little bit finer. But this is, this is what I can do for under $100. So let's go ahead and place this in the machine. Like I said, you want to grind it right before it hits the hot water. That's when the oils are the most aromatic and the freshest, and that's when you're going to get the best flavor. Okay, so we put the portafilter in the machine, place our espresso cup underneath. This thing's already ready to go, and we pull our shot. Now, if I had a better grind and a better machine, this would be coming out a little darker colored. It's coming out a little light, but it's a pretty good cup. You can see all that crema there. It's nice and thick looking. And then when it starts to blonde up like this, where it looks really clear colored, you turn it off, stop pulling the shot. Now I'm going to switch the switch here over to steam, get this steam wand ready to steam our milk. Let's talk about milk. You want to use whole milk. You need the fat to make a good microfoam. You need that fat in it. Some grinds got in my Yeah, you need the fat, so you need to use the whole milk. Cold pitcher. Get a steel one if you can. This is what I have, so this is what I'm using. It's ceramic, but it'll work. You want to put some milk in there, just enough that the steam head can reach it, but not too much, because it's going to roughly double in volume if you do it right. Steaming the milk is the hardest part, in my opinion. Starbucks gets it wrong. They put this nasty, like, whipped egg white. It's awful. This is the hard part. You want to make a nice microfoam. What that means is, this is ready. Let's purge. Get a little steam out. And then, a microfoam means that there are bubbles in it, but they're tiny bubbles all throughout. Alright, so we're going to get some air in there, and then we're going to start it rolling. If we can get it rolling, then those large bubbles will incorporate into the rest. This is the hardest part. Alright, there we go. There we go. Now it's starting to roll. So you're going to get this really nice microfoam, tiny bubbles, like as small as your espresso grinds, all the way throughout the milk. It's going to have this nice sheen on it, because there'll be all these tiny bubbles. So you get it rolling like this. You add some air at the beginning like I did by just sort of dunking it in there. You don't want to dip it too far, about a centimeter below the milk, and as the milk grows in volume, you're going to pull it down. And I kind of put my hand on the bottom of the pitcher here, and when the pitcher gets really, really hot, that's when it's done. If you have a thermometer, you want to get it to 150 degrees, no hotter, because hotter than 150 degrees, and if you get it hotter than 150 to 158 degrees, it'll taste burnt. It won't be that good. So just kind of have a nice microfoam going there. I'm struggling to get it back here, but that's okay, because we can tap those big bubbles in. So that is really hot, so that feels good. So now I've got sort of these big bubbles, just kind of smack this on the table, and you see how that incorporates them? Kind of shake it around. Yeah, there we go. That is a nice microfoam. So we take our espresso, we take the foam. This is the hard part. This is the latte art. I am terrible at it, but I am working on it. Let's give it a try. Start up high. Mix it around, then as it starts to build up on itself, you get real close, and make a ball, and I screwed it up. Dang it. Well, that looks like a penis. I am so terrible at latte art. I'm so embarrassed, but I will get better at it, I swear. And regardless of how ugly this cappuccino looks, it is perfect microfoam, very nice shot of espresso, and it is going to be sweet, naturally sweet and creamy and delicious. I'm going to just take a sip here. Oh God, yeah. Okay, check this out. Here's how you know if it's a good cappuccino. Take the spoon, kind of dip in there. You see that consistency right there? That kind of creamy, foamy, where you can kind of fold it in on itself. That is what you're looking for. That is foamy right through to the bottom. If it's thin steamed milk at the bottom with foam on top, that is a latte topped with foam. That is not a cappuccino. This is a cappuccino. So, listen, I'm Alan Lowe. This is not your average Joe. You don't need $2,000 setup. You can make a decent cappuccino with a $100 setup. Next time I'm going to show you how to make a cafe mocha.